never stops. Where do you want to go in the future? What are the things that you want to do? So your one financial partner is going to walk with you. It's your number one private bank. It's offering you high tailored relationships-driven approach to banking for executives like yourself, looking at things that you want to make sure that you achieve regardless of what the temperatures are in the economy. It has recently won the best private bank, and it's also making sure that your global financial experience can be localized as well as made global. It's more than banking. It's building a legacy for you and basically everything you touch.
Very good. Very good. Nothing more to say. Very, very good. Very, very good. City, please remind people, if you want to go for the official Study in Ireland fair on the 9th of
November.
this month,
Yes.
at Gallant Mall,
Parklands.
Parklands.
Yes.
What do you need to do?
Well, what you need to do is register, really. And the entry to that fair is by invitation only. And the only way you get the invitation is if you register. Okay? And how do you register? Well, you go to cradle.com. And how do you spell cradle? Craydel. And this will open you up to all manner of possibilities. Direct access to top universities. You will be able to discover Ireland's career opportunities. And significantly, you will be able to get expert advice and guidance on visas and the applications thereof.
Info too.
Evo.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good. So we have very many changes that are happening in the country. We have a new deputy president, freshly minted, Abrake. In fact, he even came with a new name. Abrake. That's his name.
So every time we have a deputy president, we must give them.
Yeah.
We have Rikiji, now we have Abra.
No, it's Abrake.
Okay.
Abrake. That's what the president baptized him. His name is Abraham.
I got
Kisere
it.
Kindiki.
I was just wondering if he's the one who came up with it or somebody.
And it's the president who said, let me call you Abrake. For I shall give you the name Abrake.
From Abram to Abraham.
Yes. From Kithure to Abrake. All right. And we have all these changes that are happening in the country, and we still wait for some more changes to come. We are joined by the Member of Parliament for Homo Bay Town, the Honorable George Peter Kaluma. Good morning, Peter.
Morning, Latif.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
You are, eh?
I am.
You happy?
I'm very happy.
The last time you were here, we were talking about experts joining the government.
Yes.
From your ranks.
Yes.
And also now the reorganization of the leadership of the National Assembly.
Yes.
Uliangukiwa na kakitu ama?
No, I'm already at a very comfortable place.
Very good.
There can be no bigger place than being a member of parliament. You now see Latif, members of parliament can remove the deputy president.
Just like that.
Just like that. and you know, members of parliament can also remove the president by impeachment. So I don't know what other thing you'd want me to do. But really, I love where I am. And I love the service I'm giving our country there.
You're not rewarded with anything.
In what manner?
Representation is the highest
The
reward.
leadership banner of the house.
This is the highest reward.
Representing the people of Kenya is the highest
people of Kenya.
ever achievable award.
Yes.
All 349.
And it takes all of them to remove you if they were to remove you in an election. If I were to leave that to go into those ones you think would be reward like appointive officers, and a person wakes up in the morning and I'm not in office. You see, it can be. I don't think, Latif, it can be any better than being a member of parliament.
Okay. Welcome to the conversation.
Great.
City.
Yes.
The proverb. This week we are in the Africa.
Yes, we are in the Africa, but the part is what we call south of the Sahara.
Okay.
We were in the Maghreb in the previous weeks, but now we will be in Africa south of the Sahara. Yes, and the country that we are in, or the country from whence we will be getting our proverbs, is the DRC, République Démocratique du Congo. I'm close to getting it right. Huh?
Parfait.
Perfectment. Firewood burns as long as it is not wet. A good man triumphs only when he is just.
Firewood burns as long as it's not wet.
Yes.
a good man triumphs only when he is just. What's your interpretation of this one?
The interpretation of the first line is in the second line. If you are fair and just, you would remain a good man. A fire would only burn if it is not wet.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so literal. Unless you are thinking of a context other than the literal context in which we would put it. But it encourages people to be of good virtue and goodwill, yeah.
Okay. So as we speak right now, Geoffrey Gachagua, I don't know whether he's come back to Nairobi, but for the weekend he went back home and he was chilling there with his family. He was removed through impeachment that started in the National Assembly, that was confirmed in the Senate. And the grounds were several that were brought by MP Mutuse. But if we looked at the response in the National Assembly and in the Senate, there was the constitutional legal grounds for removing, gross violation, this and the other. And then there was a political side of it. And the political side of it, from what we were just hearing across, was on the issue of promotion of tribalism. Am I right?
No, promotion or advocating a negative ethnicity, regional exclusion of some parts of Kenya, it's not a political ground, it's a constitutional ground. Latif, if you look at Article 10 of our Constitution, you discover that there lies the soul of the Constitution and the soul of our governance. Article 10 speaks to what national values and principles of governance we have in Kenya. And by the way, that provision is very emphatic, that they bind upon all state officers, all public officers, and everybody whenever they are dealing with the Constitution. And those national values are things like non-discrimination, equality of all citizens and all Kenyans. You're dealing with matters like patriotism, national unity, dealing with democracy and participation of the people, devolution, and the sharing of resources. And then you look at something like devolution and sharing of resources, you see then a whole chapter on it, later on, integrity, accountability, and all those issues. Gachagua, therefore, was removed from the office of Deputy President, largely for violation of Article 10. And if you noted my presentation, I would have wished that he picked from what I said when I spoke in the National Assembly before the Honorable Mutuse replied, and before we went thereafter, to vote. But I told Gachagua to look more at ground one of that motion and to not be too distracted to those matters, financials, properties, and other things. Because you noted even when the motion was already in the House, when he called the media, it was more on property, his brother's property, shares, companies, and those other things. I can tell you that the ground that was sending Gachagua home was that ground one, violation of Article 10. And the manner in which he violated that provision cannot be said to be political. It was repetitive. It had become his habit wherever he goes. I can tell you as late as when we went for the homecoming of Mbadi, Wandai. That is the language Gachagua was speaking.
Which one?
I don't know. This one of ethnic exclusion. I don't know whether you remember Gachagua saying when we were at the homecoming of Wandai, that Wandai charity begins at home. Don't go loitering in other parts of Kenya, lighting electricity up. Start with, Sidindi, which is his own village. Be done with Ugunja, then Siaya, then you can move out. And you remember the president came after Gachagua and reminded Wandai that he had been appointed a cabinet secretary for Kenya, not for his village. So in terms of this one, it had become too repetitive. It had become too wanton. It had become unashamed. You can imagine the deputy president. I don't know whether you remember the video where I was speaking with the Taita Taveta people. People are saying, Your Excellency, we need such and such development. And you look at them in the eye as fellow countrymen, and you tell them, you guys, when hisa ilikuwa inanunuliwa, you wasted your vote in Azimio. Wait for 2027. wakati ambapo hisa tena itafunguliwa. Kwa wakati huu mimi ndio niko na record ya hisa na hamna anything. How can you tell people that way, people of a country? And I can tell you, when you look at that national unity, non-discrimination and equality, this sits at the very foothold of a nation.
Okay.
The idea that you equally own everything in a nation and you equally share in them. And if you look at the architecture, you know, lawyers come here and I hear them telling you the design architecture of the Constitution. Think about it. But really, the national values and principles of governance, which I'm telling you today, is the soul and spirit of our Constitution, you know, informs the design of the Constitution throughout.
Okay.
It means the people of Kenya sitting at Bomas identified those things which were, you know, hurting our being a nation.
Indeed.
And when you walk through the Constitution on this equality, it was equality in terms of public appointments and resources. Resources were being centralized. So they are saying there will be devolution.
Allow me to
If
ask
you look at articles, like Article 232 on public appointments, you therefore get stipulations. Those ones I was discussing here last time. All ethnic groups, minorities, persons with disability must be integrated.
Included.
Why? Because after election, Kenya belongs to all of us.
Okay. The Constitution of Kenya, Constitution of any nation, in the minds of many people, essentially is a reflection
Yes.
of the minds of the people of the country. So those reflections have been collected over time. Experts in constitutionalism have then come and put the letter to the idea and then have now put it into a document which will now be the binding, you know, laws and principle for the nation, right? But essentially it's the reflections of the minds of people.
Yes.
Could it be that the former deputy president was expressing verbally what is in the minds of many people, practicing what has been come to be known by many people as Trumpism, for example, whereby a man is actually speaking the minds of people who may not want to actually say it out loud, but then once he does or she does, then it's met with rapt applause and people actually saying, yeah, this is actually what we want. Is it possible that that is what was happening?
Only one law in any country is called the Constitution. And what does it mean? It constitutes the country. It is what defines the territory and the people of a nation. And that is why in constitution making, it is not just about experts sitting, but you have what we call a constituent assembly. An assembly, a representative section of a people, coming up with views on behalf of the people to constitute the nation. And I can tell you, Kenya is the only country in the world where we have what we call national values and principles of governance in the Constitution. Why? Because it is possible we've had situations where, in spite of this being known to be ideals we can live by, people do their own things. And that is why we wrote them down.
Okay.
So I would tell you that we may want to excuse what the deputy president was doing by saying he could have just been, verbalizing what is in the minds of people.
Okay.
But really, those people sat down and reflecting on those issues, said these things could be within anybody, but it cannot be our value as a nation.
Okay.
And anybody, engaging in them is not fit to be in public office. And that is, why Gachagua fell.
I can hear you. So what's the difference between what he said, like you said on numerous occasions, and what you said, written by your hand? And I'm just going to read that.
Yes.
Let all communities of Kenya get their due constitutional share of public service appointments. The position of Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government should go to a Luo. Luos are the greatest defenders of human rights and fundamental freedoms.
Yeah, the difference is in the first line of that statement. I've said,
Should I read it again?
all communities, you may read it again.
Let all communities of Kenya get their due constitutional share of public service appointments.
Constitutional share. And that due constitutional share is defined in Article 232. Our constitution does not say we are not ethnic groups. Actually, our constitution recognizes that Kenya as a nation and Kenya as a state is made up of distinct ethnic groups. And Article 232, dealing with the values of public service specifically now, say that when you are composing public service, all ethnic communities shall have their due share, must be integrated. Okay, so I'm just reiterating what is in Article 232.
So if
what
anybody
I'm
else
not
had said
doing,
the same thing, it would
what
be
I'm
fine.
not doing is what Gachagua was doing,
Which is
okay, to advocate preference to an ethnic community or region in a manner that
But Luos are not
just get it, in a manner that excludes
I'm going
the
to
others,
repeat what
in
you
a
said
manner
in the
that
second-
excludes the others. I'm
Tell
not
me-
saying others be excluded.
Sorry,
Please
please,
read.
Moshimila, so that I can
how many
understand.
positions of interior CS do we have in this country?
One.
Okay.
Okay.
Read them.
The position of Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of the National Government should go to a Luo.
Yes.
I'm going to read the second part, but I just want a clarification.
Yes.
Is Luo an ethnic grouping in Kenya?
The Luo is an ethnic community.
It's an ethnic community?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Can it also be called a tribe?
Yes.
Or no?
Yes.
Oh.
It is a tribe.
I'm just making sure.
Yes.
Luos are the greatest defenders of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Have you not singled them out?
I've spoken to a virtue among Luos which you cannot hide from, which I believe qualifies a Luo. I'm not saying other Kenyans should not have, but I'm saying on this one, based on what they fight for, and they are known to fight for most, give it to a Luo. But remember, the overriding sentence is in the first sentence. This is after every ethnic community has gotten their due constitutional share. And you should be asking, therefore, in terms of the sharing of the cabinet, how many Luos do we already have? Because we are talking of interior largely because it is the vacant one.
But don't you already have?
I think we have one. We have one. And I'm just saying we could have more,
If
going by the ratios around.
You have one what?
you have one,
One
seat,
cabinet secretary.
one cabinet secretary that is
Yes.
Luo,
Yes.
so you
One
want
member,
another one.
One member.
Yeah,
of
we can have
wait,
another
wait,
one.
Kalum.
We can have
You're
another
saying
one.
there's one member of the cabinet
Who is a
of the-
Luo?
out of the 25 cabinet members. One is Luo.
Yes.
Who's that?
That is Opio and I.
What are the others?
You want me to count for you the other cabinet secretaries?
Yeah. What is that? The Attorney General.
The Attorney General is not a cabinet secretary.
Is she Luo? She is a member of the
She
cabinet.
is not a cabinet secretary. She's a member of the cabinet.
She's a member. That's what I said. Out of the 25 members of the cabinet.
Yeah, no. Then we have to. Then we have
You
to.
have two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the National Treasury is not Luo.
The National Treasury is from the Soba minority. The Sobas, of course, live within Luos, but it's not a Luo. Actually, Sobas are Bantus. This is what people don't understand. But remember, the Constitution also speaks to the idea that minorities must also be
Must also be
integrated. That
included.
Article 232.
I want you to be able to
I know you're talking about Mbadi.
Yeah,
It's not Luo, it's Soba.
Moshimi, I want you to be able to help us understand how what you are propagating here is different from what anybody else would say when they say, you know what, it's about time that we had a
We, the
CS who is
Mijikenda.
tighter, or the Mijikenda. And we believe that we are the most peace-loving people in the country, and by virtue of that, or by dint of that, we should get CS position in one.
In fact, let me tell you,
Or
Ndu, if
what
they
you-
said that way,
if you'll allow me, or what you also accused, and everybody else, by the way, the former deputy president of doing by secluding or, ring fencing a particular group of people and saying that, we are card carrying members because we voted in a particular direction. What is the difference
You see,
between what you do now and what he did, or what anybody else in the future would come out and say, we want because we are from here?
Ndu, the difference is very big. I don't know why you're struggling to
No,
see it.
please help me. Please.
Our constitution entitles all ethnic communities to integration in government. And remember, I started here by telling you that all Kenyans are in government, but we are in different political parties. And I'm saying this too because as late as this weekend, I was somewhere in Mwingi North, and some of my colleagues were saying, don't register into Chief Shah. Those are for Ruto government. I mean, the government of Kenya is one, but we are in different political formations. What I'm saying is that when you look at our constitution, it allows us to speak about ethnicities, ethnic groups, ethnic communities, and it entitles ethnic communities to portions of resources and government. In fact, it is a requirement of the Constitution. So in the first instance, if the Mijikenda, the example you gave, came and said, we are the peace-loving people, we need this. So long as they are not saying everybody else should not get, they are speaking the language of the Constitution.
Oh, because
and
you
they
said
should
nobody
get.
else should not get, then it's okay.
Yes, yes.
Did Gachagua ever say nobody should get?
I'm saying, read the first line. The ethnic
did
community.
Gachagua ever say nobody should get?
Yeah.
Did Gachagua even tell Opiyo Wandayi that do stop any power transmission project anywhere, start with your village?
Latif, you've answered the question.
Did he?
I gave you the example of Gachagua speaking in Taita Taveta and telling them to their face when they are crying for various kinds of developments that you didn't vote for this government. Wait for 2027 when the buying of shares will again be opened in that market called elections, and we'll take care of you there. For now, no going there.
But
you remember Gachagua, the videos which were showed, Latif.
That was the deputy president speaking where? In Taita.
In Taita Taveta.
Right.
And you can imagine how brazen it would be.
No.
Yeah.
He had gone to Taita Taveta.
Yes.
Was he going there to pick the projects that were initiated there to take them to his backyard?
Certainly not.
Okay.
Certainly not.
Was he
but
going
remember,
there?
you are the deputy
Was
president.
he there doing government work?
Certainly, yes.
Okay,
There is no time he was no deputy president.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he ever say the position of X should go to somebody from Madeira?
No, that one was now about resources.
Because the Madeira people are good advocates.
Yes, the latter one, you remember what he said in Nandi, and I don't know whether you remember Kericho also, where he was saying is the one checking the line of people seeking whatever at State House,
appointments,
and he will be removing those who didn't vote. As this is what we are talking about. When you go beyond advocating for shares for ethnic groups, which is constitutional, to saying people should be excluded, then you find yourself afoul of the Constitution and you cannot be forgiven. So there is no politics on this. And I can tell you, we like politicizing so many things, but the removal of Gachagua straight on its face was a constitutional endeavor, and I'm very happy it did happen.
City, are you seeing the point?
I'm seeing it very clearly.
There's a difference between saying,
yes, there is a difference.
This position should go to this community.
Yes.
And saying, if you do not vote, then you're not going to get an appointment.
It is, you've said it, if you consider what Mheshimiwa is stating as a constitutional matter, then this is my take on it. Our constitution is a bit hypocritical in this sense. You are actually saying that you can promote the benefits, you can speak about benefits that should accrue to a community. But at the same time, they're saying you should not exclude others. Now, by simply advocating for the inclusion or the benefits to accrue to a certain community, you are, again, in that process, excluding others. Now, Gachagua's problem is not excluding. He stated it. The things he said could be seen to mean that he was actually advocating for the exclusion of others. You see? Now, that's why I'm saying there's a problem. Because already by saying you can advocate for benefits to a community, you've already, I'm saying, by virtually saying that, what you've done is you've excluded others. But they're also suggesting don't talk about excluding others. Whereas in reality, you have already excluded others. That's where the hypocrisy comes
Let me tell you how Malaysia has done it.
A member of the National Assembly is not advocating for example, the appointment of the first Jibana into cabinet, right? Or somebody from the Rendile community into cabinet, right? But he's saying that it's okay, those ones can go and speak for themselves.
Yes.
I, as a member of the National Assembly,
Yes.
am speaking for the Luo.
Yes.
I don't get it.
Latif, let me tell you. Latif,
Yeah.
Latif, this is what Article 1, it will take a second to read. Sub-Article 1 of Article 232, dealing with values and principles of public services. It says the values and principles of public service include representation of Kenya's diverse communities and affording adequate and equal opportunities for appointment, training and advancement at all levels of public service of men and women, the members of all ethnic groups and persons with disabilities. You get what we are talking about? So you can talk about ethnic groups and whether they are being catered for. And that is why when I was here last time, I was telling you the manner in which this cabinet was formed immediately after elections was unconstitutional. Because you remember it was largely a cabinet of two ethnic formations in a community of over 44. That was not to say, and cannot be equated to what I'm saying now, that really this community should have their share. I'm saying within these ethnic considerations, consider this community.
Okay.
And I've given you the qualification as to why that community should be considered.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're not promoting what you are advocating for then. Because if you are, then you'd be looking at the 25 and saying, can these 25 represent as many ethnic communities as possible? Now, if there are two Luo ethnic communities, start by acknowledging that.
I like the debate.
There is two out of 25.
In the cabinet. I like that dimension, and that is what we need to negotiate. And that is why I was telling you, Latif, that I wanted us to see how, nations like the Malaysia people have gone beyond a constitutional prescription. They have a similar provision. But beyond this, they have a law now defining ethnic proportions. And this is at all cadres and levels of government. So that you're told, if for instance you're a Luo, if we have this number of appointments to make in an office, you can only get this. And I can tell you, I agree with you, if we reach that level, then it would be untenable to have a cabinet of 25 in a nation of over 44 ethnic communities, where a single ethnic community has one.
And then
You
we
get
would
what I'm
get to
talking
the
about?
place where we start to imagine that
Correct.
perhaps
Correct.
appointments would be hinged on things like merit
Correct.
and excellence,
Yes.
and not necessarily just tribal affiliation.
Unfortunately for our constitution, if you look at Article 232, in fact it says, subject to that provision I read to you, merit will be a consideration, meaning merit comes after the balancing, because the nation belongs to all. Yeah, and we don't want this thing that you tell us that competences are only in the corner of Latif's clan.
It's basically
we
saying
can't allow
that,
you.
yes, if you look at Dorcas Odor and any other people that we are considering for the position of Attorney General, they have the basic qualification. At least, do they understand the law? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's 25 minutes to 9. Let's take a break. The Honorable Peter Kaluma is our guest this morning. We are looking at, the new formations and the reorganizations in government and what that means. It's 24 minutes to 9. Did I just say that?
Yes, you did.
Very good. Very good. So as we do this, during this break, take out your phone, go to Google Play and download Tala. Why, City?
Well, look at it this way. If you are someone who never has emergencies, or when you have emergencies, they are catered for fully, then you don't need Tala. But if you're somebody who has emergencies of a financial nature, which from time to time come at the time when you least expect them, then Tala is a good companion. Why? Because they will afford you that financial assistance at a time and at the place when you most need it, and you don't have very many other options.
Very good.
The Tala app you're talking about is the Tala Loan App Kenya.
That one.
The
That's
financial, digital financial
That's the
services.
one.
Yes,
I
that
didn't know it. This would be very good for politicians like us.
regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
Yes, and registered with the Data Commission of Kenya.
Yes.
When I have back pain, I reach for 2 tablets of Panadol Extra for fast relief of strong pain, like headache, toothache, muscle pain, and I'm released from pain to be there for those who need me. Try Panadol Extra for fast and effective relief from strong pain. New Panadol Extra Soluble dissolves twice as fast versus standard paracetamol tablets.
Bongo,